Hi, creators. Today we'll be talking about branding mistakes spiritual entrepreneurs make and how to fix them. Branding, branding, branding. Where do we begin? Branding is like picking an outfit for your first date, except this date is with your ideal clients. And just like a killer outfit, your brand isn't just about looking good. It's all about feeling aligned, confident, and authentic. Whether you're a Reiki healer, a life coach, or a holistic wellness guru, your brand is a reflection of your soul's work. It's not just about your logo and your website. It's way more than that. It's about the vibe, the message, and the energy that you put out into the world. I'll tell you this, even seasoned spiritual entrepreneurs can sometimes slip up when it comes to branding. The good news, those mistakes are totally fixable, and with a little tweak here and there, you'll be attracting your dream clients like a magnet in no time. So let's talk about some branding missteps and how you can avoid them so that you can create a brand that's cohesive, aligned, and as magnetic as you are. The first thing I wanted to talk about is lack of a clear brand identity. So what's the problem with this one? The problem is that we get it. You've got this amazing gift, whether it's healing sessions, retreats, or coaching programs. But sometimes we can get so caught up in what we do that we forget how we present it. A lot of spiritual entrepreneurs will skip over the nitty-gritty details of brand identity. The problem is that without a clear brand identity, potential clients might scroll right past you without even realizing how fabulous you truly are. So I want you to start thinking of your brand identity as your signature scent. It should linger, leave an impression, and feel unmistakably you. Why does this problem happen? Well, I think it happens because so many of us in this spiritual and wellness world are so deeply mission driven. We're here to help others heal, and sometimes branding can feel, well, a little too materialistic or corporate. But here's the thing, without a clear identity, your message might get lost in the wellness noise. After all, how many other brands do you see on a day-to-day basis scrolling through your Instagram? Well, we don't want that. We want your message to stand out. And the solution is really easy. So let's fix it. I want you to craft a brand identity that feels like your favorite curated playlist. Every element is in harmony, giving off just the right vibe. So grab your pen and paper because here's what you need to achieve this. First, you'll need a meaningful logo. Your logo should feel like the visual version of your energy. Whether it's something spiritual and symbolic or something chic and modern, it should really capture the essence of your practice. At our studio, we're huge fans of symbolic logos. In fact, whenever we create a new logo, we like to layer in multiple symbols to create one cohesive icon. We've kind of become known for this style, and we really like creating logos in this way because it helps our clients connect with their brand, and it also helps their clients subconsciously understand the meaning behind their brand. It sounds silly to say that you can look at a symbol and feel a certain way, but we actually do this every single day. That's why symbols have such a deep meaning. It's a little bit like the tarot cards. Even if you don't know the exact meaning of a card, by just looking at one, you can get a sense of what it's trying to communicate with you. And symbols have really been used since antiquity to express ideas. Think about hieroglyphs in ancient Egypt. Think about sigils, any sort of symbols on buildings. We've been using symbols to convey meaning and messages since the beginning of time. Even to the point of emojis. We use emojis all the time to express emotion. So if you don't have a symbol that represents your brand, I invite you to sit with it and see what comes up. And if you need any ideas of what sort of symbols that you should use, I can make an entire video about that. Some symbols that come up a lot with our clients are the moon, stars, usually celestial bodies, just because it carries a feminine energy with it. Other symbols that come up would be butterflies, dragonflies, pyramids sometimes. A lot of the times people look at the eye, right? The third eye. I'm trying to think what other symbols we've used in our logos. The moon is a big one. The girlies love the moon. It's very feminine energy. We've recently done a logo with waves in it. It was for a psychotherapist, and the waves represented the challenges that we go through life, the ebb and flow of life. Very interesting. But try to think about symbols that resonate with you. And if you don't have one, you might want to consider incorporating one with your logo. Next, write this down. You want to have consistent fonts and colors. Remember, these are not just aesthetic choices. Just like symbols, colors convey different emotions. And fonts set the tone for your brand. In terms of colors, think of pastels. They're much more soft. They convey this sense of calm and peacefulness, whereas vibrant tones scream transformation and power. So you really have to take a look at how you want your brand to be represented, but also think about who you are as a person and how you communicate with your clients. Because those two things, they need to match in order for you to create a cohesive brand identity across the board. And that leads us into the next point, brand tone and voice. Your brand should sound like you, whether you're sharing a meditation or motivational coaching. I want you to take note of how you want to be perceived and how you want to sound, but don't feel like you need to get it perfect for the first time, and don't overthink it, because the more you overthink, the less it will sound like you. I would also suggest that if there's someone that you like the way they sound and you want to emulate that, in that sense, you can work on yourself to get yourself there, but don't be super far away from your own voice and don't try to reinvent yourself from the beginning. Because if you're gonna feel like you're having trouble expressing yourself or staying consistent with what it is that you're saying, you're less likely to want to create emails or create content, just because it will feel like so much hard work to try to show up as this persona that you created. So of course, have your idols, have your role models. That's okay. Try to emulate them as much as you can, but don't try too hard. Don't pick someone that is so far away from who you are, because it will feel very, very difficult to consistently show up as that person. And the one thing that I don't want you to do is to lose yourself during this branding process. I think this is extremely important, especially for a spiritual entrepreneur, for someone building a personal brand, because this is something that you're going to be with for years to come. So you definitely want it to feel aligned to who you are as a person. And if it is too difficult, again, you're going to lose interest, you're going to find it too hard, and you're going to lose yourself and who you are. So it's always better to take your time, try to figure out your voice. You can always change it, but remember to stay consistent. An easy way to stay consistent would be to make a list of words that you use all the time, or a list of phrases that align with your brand message, and then consistently use those phrases. Bring them up again and again. And that way, those will become your signature words for your brand, and your audience will come to associate you with it. I don't know if any of you have watched The Simple Life, but Paris Hilton says, "That's hot." Well, that's like a key phrase, right? So if you have something like that, that will really infuse personality. First of all, it will infuse personality in your brand, but it will also allow your audience to connect with you, because they will start associating that phrase with who you are and with your brand. Remember that creating a cohesive brand identity is like crafting your own personal style. It's uniquely yours, and it will attract those who are meant to walk this path with you. And after all, it's really fun. You really get to invent who you are, and you get to choose how you want to show up. And if you want a little bit more inspiration, I made a video decoding the hidden symbols within a viral logo that we created for one of our clients. So go check that out so you can see how intentional symbols can make a lasting impression on your brand. The next thing I want to talk about is inconsistent messaging across platforms. And I kind of touched about it in the previous point, but let's explore it more in depth. So what's the problem here? Have you ever noticed how on your Instagram you sound like you're having a casual coffee chat with someone you know, but your website sounds more like you're addressing a boardroom? That's inconsistent messaging. When you think about it, it makes sense, because you want to be a little bit more casual on Instagram. You feel like, especially if it's a personal brand, if you've been growing this brand for years and then later on got a website feels a little bit more serious than, let's say, Instagram. I get it. I do. But if your tone changes from platform to platform, it may confuse your audience. One specific thing that I see happen a lot is people that have personal brands, and they'll be really good at connecting with their audience on Instagram, but then when you go on their website, they're talking about themselves in third person. And to me, that's kind of an ick, because I feel like, especially if you have a personal brand, if it's your brand, even if you have some assistants, but it's not like a big team, why would you talk about yourself in third person? Why would I want to read something that's about you in third person? It seems so impersonal. And that is one of my biggest pet peeves. I always encourage my clients to speak as if it's coming from themselves, as if they're the ones that were writing the copy, because that's what really connects you with your audience, especially on your website, right? I also feel like it's a little bit dated to talk about yourself in third person on your website. If you are doing that, let me know in the comments why you prefer sticking to third person. In my opinion, it just confuses your audience. Another thing that I'll see happening is that the home page is in first person, you're talking directly to your audience, but then your about page is in third person. So it's like, what happened? What was the disconnect between one page and the other, right? So in my opinion, you should just keep it consistent, especially if you have a personal brand. We're in an era where everybody has a personal brand. Talk in first person, talk directly to your audience. Don't let them feel like there is a middleman between you and them. It's as if you're going on your LinkedIn profile and you start talking about yourself and your achievements in third person. You wouldn't do that, right? But why does this happen? I think this happens because when you're juggling a million different things, like your business, your clients, your family life, it's really easy to fall into the trap of switching your messaging based on the platform that you're speaking on. Or if you have an assistant or you're working with someone, delegating those tasks to other people may cause you to lose your tone of voice. And this is exactly what I mentioned earlier when I said that you should have a list of words that you use, especially if you're working with other people in your brand. You want to share that with them so that they can use it when they write the messages for you, and that way you'll stay consistent as well. I think another reason why this happens, and I've said it myself, is that we so often hear that you need to speak differently on different platforms when it comes to content creation. But it's not that you need to speak differently. It's just a different type of content work better on different kind of platforms. So we were talking about in a previous video about how, on Instagram, it's a little bit more polished than, let's say, TikTok. And YouTube is very long form content, very educational type of content. But you don't want to be switching your voice, the way you speak to your clients. You just want to be changing the way you make the content, right? So really quickly, to illustrate what I mean, for example, I just saw this I don't have my phone because I'm filming with it. I just saw on TikTok, a girl was saying that for Instagram, your phone will be somewhere over here and you'll be filming yourself. Whereas for TikTok, your phone is over here. It's much more up close and personal, right? And then for YouTube, it's very far away. And now you're seeing way more of the room that I'm in. It's a different kind of environment. And that just goes to show that it's not really you don't have to change your tone of voice. You just change the way you create the content. But I think if you're absorbing all of this information and all of this is coming at you, it might be very easy to confuse switching the type of content that you create with switching the tone of voice that you use on these different platforms. And that's not the case. You always want to sound like yourself, no matter the platform. I hope that makes sense. So how do you fix that? How do you stay consistent across all platforms? I hope you still have your pen and paper, because I want you to write this down. What you need to take the time and create now is going to become your brand messaging BFF. And that is the brand messaging guide. This little document is going to save you so much time and confusion. In it, you'll want to define your tone of voice, nurturing, playful, empowering. You decide and then stick with it. Next, you want to define your core messages. These are the things that you repeat like a personal mantra. What do you want your audience to know, feel, and take away from every interaction. Those should become your core messages. Finally, you want to define your key phrases and language. Choose words and phrases that resonate with your brand and use them consistently across the board. So now with this in place, whether it's a newsletter, a tweet, or an Instagram story, you'll always sound like you. This is exactly why we include this document in our branding package. It comes with the branding guidelines to ensure that your messaging is always on point, no matter where your audience finds you. The next thing I want to talk about is not having a defined target audience. So what's the problem with this one? Well, here's a little truth bomb that I'm sure you've heard before, but when you try to speak to everyone, you end up speaking to no. One of the biggest and first mistakes we see entrepreneurs make is being too broad with their audience. On the one hand, I understand, especially if you are new to your business, you don't really know exactly who you're speaking with. And it feels scary to niche down, especially when you create a brand that you feel like could help everyone. But the truth is, when you get super clear on who your target audience is, that's where the magic happens. And even if it feels scary in the beginning because you think it's really hard to define who your target audience is, because everybody could benefit from the type of transformation you provide, you actually can get a lot more clear on who the people that you want to serve are by just doing a little bit of research and by just spending some time thinking about who exactly it is that you want to help. It's not just about your audience or who could benefit from your service. It's also about you and who you want to help. There are certain people that we prefer working with, and there are other people that completely drain us. Even if we could help them, that doesn't mean that we should help them. Remember that you are put on this earth to work with people that are truly aligned with your soul's path. You've both decided that before coming here. So to attract the right people, you need to really define them and get clear with who they are. This way, you'll be able to speak to them about their specific problems, about their specific issues, and you're going to be able to make a much bigger impact than being too broad and for everyone. But why does this happen? Trust me, I get it. The idea of narrowing down your audience can feel super limiting, especially in the beginning. But again, in reality, the more you will attract the people who are genuinely aligned with your energy and offerings. So bring back that handy notebook. Here's what I want you to do to define your audience. Actually, before we get there, let me just tell you a couple of common symptoms of what it feels like to not have a defined audience. If you don't have a defined audience, the first thing you'll notice is that you are often explaining exactly what it is that you do, and you're often having to explain how impactful the transformation that you offer is. Another thing that you'll find yourself doing is explaining your pricing and justifying why you charge what you charge. Not knowing what type of content to create is another symptom of not really having a specific audience, or having too many different ideas of the type of content that you want to create. Another way in which this can manifest is if you have a ton of different programs and services. You are only one person, so you should really focus on having 2 to 3 core offerings and maybe some secondary offerings as well, but no more than that. I mean, how much can you really do? The more offerings that you add, the more content you have to produce to promote those offerings. So if you have too many products and services, that probably means that you don't have a really defined audience and you're trying to appeal to a way broader audience. Another problem that I see with people that don't have a defined audience is the fact that they can't really use their testimonials because it just doesn't apply to everyone in their niche. They don't have a niche. So the testimonials, they could have a really, really powerful testimonial from one client, but it won't apply to the next client because they are in a completely different state. They're looking for something completely different. And it makes it really, really hard for you as well, because if you don't know exactly who you're speaking to, it takes so much more energy to try to tailor your messaging, to try to tailor your offerings to a new client. It's a good thing to have personalized services, of course, but still, you do want to work within some boundaries of the type of service that you want to offer. You're going to be much more efficient if you do that, trust me, at offering your service, at promoting your services, at attracting more clients, at scaling your business. So bring back your notebook and let's look at the solution for this. What I want you to do is to get crystal clear on who your ideal client is. Ask yourself this: what do they need from you, and how can your services fill that gap? By tailoring your brand and messaging to your ideal client, you'll start attracting people that truly resonate with the work that you do. And if you're stuck here and if you have a million ideas running through your mind and you don't know what the next step should be, we have a growth strategy session in which I can help you define your ideal audience and take a look at the growth that you want in your business and define the next step you need to take in order to achieve that. All right, the next thing I want us to discuss is poor website design and user experience. Why is this a problem? I think you can guess. Your website is like your digital home. It's where potential clients will come to learn more about you, get a feel for your energy, and decide whether or not to book a session with you. But if your site is cluttered, slow, or impossible to navigate, people will leave before they even get a chance to learn more about you. You may think that this never happens, but it happens way more often than you think. I mean, sure, some people might just DM you, but the majority of people will take a look at your entire digital presence. Again, you'll have to think about who your audience is. I would assume Gen Z and younger, they probably are not as interested in checking you out everywhere. But if you're working with millennials, Gen X, and older, they will check your website 100% of the time. They'll look you up on YouTube. They may not look at your TikTok, but they will look at everything else. So again, it's really important to know who your ideal client is. And if you know that they'll be looking at your website, make sure that it is really easy to use, very intuitive, and that it also looks good and it matches your brand. The majority of the people that visit our website, they come from desktop, which is hard to believe in 2024 when pretty much everybody is on their phone all the time. But again, my audience is women in business, so it makes sense that they'll be looking at our website from their laptop, they'll be looking from a desktop and not from a mobile phone. And I have to tell you, that really surprised me in the beginning. But obviously, once I got to know my audience more and more, it made sense that they'll be looking at our website during their work hours, they're doing research, they're wanting to find out if we are aligned, if we can help them create their dream brand. So, of course, they'll be looking at our website while they're working. It's it's going to be a business expense. I actually saw a TikTok a few days ago where the person was saying how they were millennial, so they couldn't do any big tasks from their phone, like booking an airplane ticket or something like that, because it just feels like their phone is so informal, so that they have to use their laptop to finish that transaction. And I 100% resonated with that, as a millennial myself. I definitely feel like when it comes to bigger tasks, I have to be on my laptop. Otherwise, it's almost like it's not serious enough. So let me know in the comments if you resonate with that or if you do absolutely everything from your phone. So why does this happen though? Why is it that you ended up with a poor website design? Or maybe your website is not fully reflective of your brand. Well, you may have set your website a few years ago when you first started your practice. You may have DIY'd it and let the design slip through the cracks. It's normal. I totally see where you're coming from. Maybe you bought a template and you worked with that template and you said, hey, good enough. I totally get it. And maybe it was good enough at the beginning of your business, but now that you've been working in your business for a few years, it really is time to get a more polished look. Another reason why web design is so important is that Oftentimes, especially in the last few years, things have changed so much, design trends have changed so much that you can clearly see when a website hasn't been updated in the last couple of years. And I think this is also a common misconception that people have. They will create their website and they'll do it one time and then they'll let it stagnate for 5, 10 years. But a website is a living thing. It changes. It changes as your brand grows. You really do want to take into consideration the look and feel of your website. Some websites can still feel timeless even now, but some other ones, especially the ones that were really following heavy trends, they really do feel quite dated if you go on them nowadays. This is why we create websites that are really timeless. We do not necessarily stick to trends. I remember a couple of years ago, there was that huge trend to have script, and a lot of people were designing logos with the script font. And even we were asked by our own clients if we could design them a logo in a script font. And honestly, we refused at the time too, because we didn't believe that that was something that was gonna age very well. And this is just a few short years ago. So if we would have offered a script font, in the majority of cases, that font just doesn't cut it anymore. It feels so 2020, you know what I mean? Well, it's the same thing with your website. So make sure when you design your website, don't follow trends. Try to stick with your brand image and try to get something that's custom and that's you. And don't forget that you need to update it every once in a while. I'm not saying that you need to update it every year, but every couple of years you should consider an update. Let me give you an example. A couple of years ago, there was that huge trend with super hipster restaurants where everyone was using mason jars and the eclectic look was really in, where restaurant owners would go to thrift shops and they would thrift all of these different eclectic chairs and they would put them all together. That was the look. Well, I still see so many of those restaurants today and they honestly feel so dated. Not to mention that those chairs are incredibly uncomfortable, and I truly, truly wish that they would update their design, because it really doesn't feel like it's in style anymore. The whole vibe feels dated. It feels like it's from another world. And again, that's not to bash anyone. I just think that if you get it, you get it, right? So for all of us girls that really appreciate aesthetics and that really understand the importance of creating the right vibe, those things really matter. And it's the same thing with your website. Thankfully, redesigning your website is not going to cost you as much as refurnishing and redesigning your whole restaurant. So I really do think you should take it in consideration that every few years, revamp your website, make sure it's in line, make sure that it looks fresh, it looks modern, and treat it like the important partner that it is in your business. So what's the solution here? Going back to the outfit analogy, a website that works should feel as effortless and as chic as your favorite outfit. It needs to reflect your brand identity. Again, it should feel like you. From the fonts to the colors to the layout, it all needs to align. Another thing that you want your website to be is easy to navigate, of course. No one likes clunky websites. Keep it simple and clear with intuitive navigation. That's one of the biggest mistakes that you can make with your website, is to not have a predefined user journey. If a potential visitor lands on your website and they don't know what the next step should be, your website is not working for you. It's working against you. You don't really want people to land on your website and have to think, what is the next step? You should direct them through your services, through your about, so that they can easily move from one page to another until they decide to book and work with you. Another mistake that I see is people that make it really hard for a client to book a service. So it's not intuitive at all. It's very hard to know exactly how to check out. So you should really have a predefined journey in mind so that your customers can easily go through that funnel without having to really lift a finger or without requiring too much effort from their end. Because the moment someone needs to do a little bit of effort, they might as well just not do it, right? They'll get distracted, they'll tell themselves they'll do it later, and they forget about it, and they don't do it in the end. So you really do want to make it as easy as possible for someone to book your services. And to do that, you have to think for yourself, what is the first step that someone has to take? Do you have coaching programs that you want people to book right away? Or do you want people to book a discovery call where you discuss with them what their needs are, and then you suggest a service based on their needs, right? Because you're offering very tailored services. That's the case with our services. So I have a free discovery call. This is the very first point of contact that I have with the client, because I really do want to make sure that us and the client are on the same page and that we're really in a position to help them, right? I don't want to mislead anyone. I don't want them to book beforehand. I want to get a feel for who they are. This is a very collaborative process. So therefore, I want to know who I'm working with, right? I can't just have a book a web design button and then kind of like they book it and then it's in my calendar and then I just start the design. No. First, I have to have a feel for who they are. I have to suggest very tailored solutions to who they are. We have to create a quote. There's multiple steps involved. So first, we have the call, then I send them a quote, then they approve the quote, I send them the contract. I know all of this and I know that it works because I've been doing it for years. If yours is different, if you have a different process, if you sell mostly one-on-one sessions, of course, those you can book right away. Therapists, for example, they won't have a discovery call. Most of the time they'll have maybe like a 15-minute discovery call and then the first session is paid, right? You may have coaching programs where you want people to book the whole 6 months in advance and you don't really necessarily need to talk to them. Maybe you have a pre-recorded program or workshops that people they don't need to talk to you beforehand, right? They could just book them right away. Just think about your user journey, think about the services that you have to offer and make it as easy as possible for the client to get in touch with you, and have the process as seamless as possible for them so that you can onboard them with no stress, because you definitely don't want to stress your clients before they even started working with you. Another thing that you want on your website is content, of course. Content marketing is great for SEO, but it's also really good for potential clients when they land on your website. Again, most people won't book right away. They'll have to get to know you first. So you tell your story through your content. If you don't necessarily post content on your website, well, first of all, I do suggest that you do, but at least link your social profiles to where you do post, right? And so if you're always on Instagram, link your Instagram profile on your website. Make sure that people can find you everywhere and show them that you are present and active on all of these different platforms. Make sure that you show them that you are helping clients, because it's very rare that people want to be the first ones to adopt something. So make sure that you show them that you've done this before, that you are capable of helping them achieve the transformation that they're after. And if your website needs a refresh, I got you. Our website design services are tailored specifically for spiritual entrepreneurs. So let me help you create a website that feels as aligned as your energy. And the final mistake that I want to talk about today, I touched on it briefly in the previous point, but it's ignoring the power of content marketing. Here's the deal: content is queen. I know that a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs overlook content marketing, and that's a major missed opportunity. I understand why that happens. Again, if you're a little bit older, if you're a millennial, Gen X, it may seem harder to show up, to create consistent content, because we're just not used to it the way Gen Zs are, right? They've grown up with a phone in their hands. We're much more reserved. It takes us a little bit more time. We want everything to be perfect. I get it. But regular content, think blogs, videos, newsletters, they help you share your wisdom and build a genuine connection with your audience. I talked about email marketing at length in one of my previous videos, so go check that out if you want to learn more. But why does this happen? Again, I know the idea of creating consistent content can feel so daunting at times. It can feel downright overwhelming. But remember that without a content strategy, your audience won't get the full picture of what you have to offer and how amazing you truly are. Of course, beyond that, content marketing creates brand awareness. It creates a ton of opportunities. It opens doors that you didn't even think could open. It's good for SEO. It's just all around something that you cannot put aside, especially in 2025 and beyond. Gone are the days when we could just place an ad in a newspaper and let that be our marketing. It's unfortunate, but it is true. We do have to create a ton of content to market our business nowadays. And I hear you, not everybody, started a business so that they could become a content creator. I get it. But I don't want you to think about it as if you're performing. I don't want you to think about it as something additional that you have to do. I want you to think about it as a way to connect with your audience and as a way to discover who you are, get better at public speaking, just honing your skills all around. Let's put a positive spin on it, right? After all, the key to everything is a good attitude. So, what's the solution here? Well, the solution is that content marketing doesn't have to be a beast. Start small and focus on content that answers your audience's most pressing questions. Again, I talked about this in a previous video. Go check that out. It's called The Lazy Girl's Guide to Creating Content. So, if this is something that you're struggling with, go watch that video. It will give you some ideas to get started. Think blogging, write about what you know. Share tips, wisdom, and insights from your practice. Blogs are not only valuable for your audience, but they're also great for SEO. Next is video. I love videos. Videos are so engaging and it allows your clients to see your energy in action. It's truly a great way to connect with someone that just comes across your content for the first time. You can also create email newsletters. I talked extensively about why you should create email newsletters. I even have a funnel, and I'll put it down below, that teaches you exactly what you want to talk about in your email newsletters. But this type of content really helps you stay top of mind for your audience. You can offer valuable tips, client stories, and of course, exclusive offers. And if you are too busy to create consistent content, I've got you there too. We have a service called the Content Club where I help you create video content in the form of educational videos. We take care of everything from video content creation to strategy, so you can focus on what you do best while still growing your audience. And I really created the service with my clients in mind because I find that a lot of the times they think it's really difficult to set up a camera and talk to the camera. They much more prefer having conversations with people, which it's totally normal. So the way the service works is that we define the goal of the campaign. Then I come up with a series of questions for them to answer. We get on a Zoom call. I ask them the questions. They answer very naturally. They are able to tap into their knowledge. They don't have to write a script. They don't have to do any of that. It all seems very, very natural, kind of like a podcast. And then I take that video, I edit it into, I like to create one long video that's 10-15 minutes that they can post on YouTube. And then I also take that video and I cut it down into 10, 15, 1 minute videos that they can then also share on Instagram. So with something like this, you have content for a whole entire month, right? And it answers different questions and it talks on different topics. The best part is that it just makes it easier on you because you don't have to think about it. You don't have to set it up. All you have to do is show up to the call, answer the questions naturally, and then we handle the rest. So far, it's been really well received. I find that it removes that awkwardness that sometimes we have when we sit and talk to ourselves in front of a camera. And it makes it flow a lot more naturally when you're talking to someone. In conclusion, are you making any of those 5 mistakes? Be honest. Here's the takeaway. Your brand is more than just a logo and some snazzy colors. It's the essence of who you are, what you stand for, and how you connect with your people. By avoiding these branding mistakes like inconsistent messaging, unclear identity, and neglecting content, you'll create a spiritual brand that truly resonates with your ideal clients. And again, please remember that branding is not a one and done deal. As you evolve, so will your brand. And that is a beautiful thing. So if you're ready to level up, I'm here for you. You can book a free strategy session with me and we can discuss your goals and your next steps. Thank you so much for watching this video through. I'm Vanessa from Zen, where we help you step into your CEO energy and finally build the life of your dreams. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and leave me a comment down below. And if you're really, really generous, please share it with someone else that might enjoy it. I'm really trying to grow an audience here, and I appreciate all of your support. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.